new for everybody. Every first sale is new for everyone, and it's just as scary for everybody. I think the biggest thing is just trying to like stay level-headed and hire good attorneys. Like at the end of the day, like people that are going to look out for you and really like respect what you do and respect like instead of just your money as well. Like we were fortunate to have a firm that I've been working with for a while help us with our deal. And they weren't just like trying to get on the phone every 30 minutes to try and clock up like their rates and their hours and charge us a bunch of money. That's where we started to like hit a rhythm. And there's a certain point of like time in market of just bringing on the right staff, finding the right people. Like, I mean, the agency business right now is completely based on people. Now it's becoming people plus AI. So I think that staying focused is more important than trying to do a little bit of everything. The future state of what it looks like, AI adaptability is going to be all of it. I think if people are unwilling to do that, they're going to very much struggle. I think that most media buying is going to be automated for a lot of brands the next like year. The advice from Jordan was like very risk forward. So I think a lot of brands also sometimes get stuck in the like, it's going okay and good, but it's not great. And that what gets it to great is that risk tolerance of being to say like, hey, if we change this one thing up in the business, that's going to have a big ripple effect. But if that ripple effect could be great or bad, like, am I willing to take that bet?
Like nobody moves as fast as your team. Like, hey, we're going to test this new offer. And it's like, okay, the buy box is done. Like 3 hours later, it's like, what do you mean the buy box is done? Like, I thought this was a next week project. Like, and it would be a next week project, if not a next month project for a lot of people. And it's just like that, the speed of like, well, why can't we just do it right now? Especially if it's going to change the economics of this in a substantial way. Like,
I've been a brand person that went agency for like 10 years before I got to be the brand person that I've always wanted to be, which I'm not like there. I'm not who I always wanted to be yet. Like I have big goals and big aspirations, but like there's definitely been the intention to go build brands.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
All right, welcome to Scalability School. New episode and big news. Zach Stuck is back on the podcast. Unbelievable. Everybody give a big round of applause for Zach being back. So stoked to have you. And we're talking today about of which Zach has had a little bit of recently. And actually, it's interesting because Zach bought my agency now. And then Brad bought his. No, I'm just kidding. So Brad actually wins it all. But we're here to talk about obviously all of the things that have been happening with the acquisition of Homestead, all the things that have been happening with the raise for MarsMen, which we can talk about now, and how many people have copied your ads in the last 1 week. It's got to be in the millions. How many posts have we seen of people being like, hey, like I trained this to go with this on all of MarsMen's things and it's a master class and here's why. I click follow. I'm like, you didn't do shit. You just walked through what they did.
my favorite part is the follow-up to hire their agency in the subtweet.
Oh yeah. And then I should have gone onto that tweet and like took some credit. Wouldn't have been for the podcast. You wouldn't, I feel like everybody was taking credit.
We did get a sales pitch this week of a brand saying that they worked with one of my other brands that they don't work with another, they don't work with Hollow. They were pitching Mars and they were like, oh yeah, we work with XYZ and Hollow Socks. And I'm like, not true. Busted.
Oh,
so anyways, that was
good
funny.
Stuff.
That was funny.
That's hilarious. Well, so a lot's been happening. There's obviously Homestead was sold. Van Group was sold to Verndale. Shopify Platinum Partner. Common Thread sold. These other ones, there's like a Varfage. I don't even know what that is. You want to talk about that, Brad?
I was just listing off a bunch of things that I
Listing off
remember
all
that
of these
have
people
happened.
that have sold.
It just seems like there's a lot of activity. Yeah. So there's a lot of activity on the agency side. Seems to be like there's a lot of activity on the CPG, D2C side. Grun's literally sold this morning or was announced this morning. Chad's sailing off into the sunset right now, just printing money. So yeah, no, there's a lot of activity going on. But before we go any further on that, I think it's important to make a point that I'm pretty sure Wisconsin has like the most pound for pound. I don't know if that's the way to describe it. Like D2C power here, right? Like,
Absolutely.
okay, here, let me, like you could, great. You were born somewhere and you moved to California and did something cool. Well, we stayed. Oh, God damn it. so I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, we can continue on with more important discussion.
Yeah, I think MarsMen has collectively raised more than all consumer CPG brands in Wisconsin. So
and I was just literally, I was in Appleton yesterday. I didn't get to see Zach because Zach's just busy, but I did go to another D2C darling that I don't think many people know about. Got to see Viper Chairs. Dane, great guy, great place. they're killing it. Just like who knew, you know,
That's dope. I mean, there's a lot out
Wisconsin
there,
gems.
and here's the thing: if they are in D2C and they know Zach, I'll just say that. So because you're the keeper, especially in Northeast Wisconsin, of all of those folks.
All three of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's obviously been a ton of activity. I think what we want to go into today is like, let's just talk about each of these things independently, right? Let's talk about Homestead, named after the street you grew up on, 2019. So how did you grow this to sell it? Like, what was the whole idea behind selling it? Like, what was the,
Yeah.
because I remember when I actually looked back and I have an invoice from Stuck Digital,
But yeah,
which
the
was pre
OG.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what sort of made you, and what do you think were the keys of success in getting it to the point where it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said, so I'll try to keep it as short and sweet as I can. I mean, I think, yeah, sole founder of the agency in the beginning. It was, kind of fruitful coming out of, me posting like one or two case studies on Twitter that then turned into a bunch of leads that then turned into too much business for me to manage, which then turned into an agency. So, I mean, that all happened in like a 30-day span, which was pretty cool. It was my first like freelance client that we were able to grow quite a bit and we were able to stack some wins with that. But I was the CEO of the company for the first 4 years. And in our first year, Riley Trotter came in, who came in as head of Google, very quickly became my CMO, very quickly then became my business partner, and then took over for me as CEO when I was kind of in the spot where we had already, a handful of client wins under our belt. That was during like kind of the big run up of Hexclad. That was like the year that they went from, it was like, I don't know, 40 million to 150 and 150 like 300 plus. And during that year, it was like, okay, I kind of want to try this on my own. And that's where Hollow kind of got started. So, I mean, candidly, like getting it to that point, I mean, when I stepped away to when we sold the company, we were about, let me think, about 25 employees, about a third of the revenue. Is that right? That seems right. And yeah, so I mean, like there was a ton of growth after me stepping out as CEO. And that's candidly like that all comes from Riley doing a great job in initiating, a lot of push on just the agency continuing to like develop and grow. There's been a ton of changes in the marketplace. So we continue to try and set ourselves out as like a premium agency, not a cheap agency, not this agency that hopefully you come in and churn and burn clients out. And we actually really give a shit and try really hard to succeed for the clients. And then, we had the opportunity to bring in an awesome person who's Jacob Sappington, who really like candidly helped build out this infrastructure of like the retention offering for the agency that, I mean, very grateful to him and what he was able to help us do. And, we had some like ups and downs over the last few years, which were, mostly derived by the market more than I think the team or anything like that. But we got to a point like 2 years ago where we were considering selling the agency, and then had a little bit of a downturn for a short period of time. And so we kind of like went back to the drawing board and just said, hey, what does this business need to look like to sell and to sell for an outcome that we're all stoked about? And that's when we really doubled down on the retention offering. And I think that what set us up for success to sell is like we got very, very good at one offering that had less impact on daily performance of a brand. So I think we were driving incremental revenue. We were driving, returning customers back. And this is kind of when the whole shift from people being like, hey, I can only focus on I can only think about Facebook ads and look at in-platform ROAS to like I have to look at my business holistically and I have to understand the financials of my business. Like this happened 2-3 years ago in like D2C X Twitter space. And that was kind of right when we made that transition to being like, hey, we're going to be a retention agency, not just an acquisition agency, focused on just paid and creative for paid. And that became more than half of our business when we sold. I mean, when we sold the company, we had 85 employees, and have 85 employees still. We still manage, a great opportunity and great outcome with Verndale. And they kind of said, hey, don't nothing to change here. It's going great. So like keep running it as is. And yeah, I mean, I think your question about like what kind of prompted us to sell the company, we had a really, really good 2025. That really teed us up to say, hey, we can just keep doubling down or we can go to market. And for me, still being the majority owner and shareholder of the company with the brands and kind of where the brands are at today, I was kind of ready to kind of get that first bag, if you will. And so yeah, I mean it was a decision across like myself and Riley and then our junior partners, Kelly and Jacob. But I mean, it just made a lot of sense. It seemed like there was some things that could be really good for agencies, which is like all the AI stuff. It also could be really scary for agencies. We had a really good year. It felt like we were really getting in a good groove with our service offering and our retention. Like our retention in 2025 was better than it ever was any previous year. So I think that all of those things led to a couple of short conversations with a few different agencies or buyers, and we really enjoyed the conversations with Verndale, and they seemed like a good fit. And they just acquired Van Group, so we've always looked up to Van Group's work on the web side of things. So just felt like a good opportunity. So that kind of gets us to today. The way that the deal was structured was very favorable to us as the seller, and so yeah, we're really excited. But nothing really changes. That's the great thing about Homestead is like I've been out of the company, not in the day to day, for over a year now, and Riley's been running things with Kelly and Jacob by his side. And so we just kind of continue business as usual. Agency's still growing. Like we were growing through the process of the deal happening, which always is good for like a deal hopefully closing. So yeah, nothing but good stuff from our end.
How did the service offering change throughout the years otherwise? Like email retention was kind of the big unlock maybe in the more recent years, but I know you guys went through a couple of different phase transitions otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, like you go all the way back to the beginning, and it was a revenue share structure where we basically did everything. And that was just kind of like I mean, it was just me to start, but it was my ability to kind of surf across like emails, flows, had some creative work. And so for the first year, I mean, we were a revenue share structured agency where we'd get, a small single digit percentage of the revenue. And if we had a lot of upsides, we had clients that were paying us, 20, 30, $50,000 a month if we could grow them at a rate. And we had a certain point where like that started to break. And I think that was reasonable for that to start to break because people were like, we helped them build businesses big enough that they could build internal teams and stuff like that, which, never had hard feelings about that and understood it. But we then realized that we had to make it more sustainable, where clients and the retention of clients would be more steady versus these like big moonshots where we could take a brand from, a couple $100,000 a month in revenue to millions a month in revenue in less than 6 months and get a big paycheck for a few months and then they would churn. So that really was the transition. And then, I mean, over the last year, it's been year and a half, it's been very steady. It's been like paid ads. So doing the media buying across all the channels that are standard, ad creatives, and then landing pages is kind of like a one-off offering. And that kind of playbook of like, cool, we can bring in a pod for creatives, we can bring in a pod for landers, and we can do all the day-to-day media buying and kind of helping with like the forecasting of how to allocate the spend seemed to be kind of like the sweet spot. It kind of allowed us to do that. And then most of our clients, the majority of our clients utilize Homestead across both paid acquisition and retention. So that was the other thing too, right? So it's like when you don't have control of both, you might be having a really rough week for paid, but then you can put an extra effort on the retention side, send an extra text, send an extra email, do some extra things to try and like, pump up numbers. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like our email and SMS offering is pretty straightforward. Hasn't really changed for the last year and a half outside of like all the cool things that the team has built, which are all these like AI tools that allow for better open rates, better tracking. Like we can do a lot more where we can like pull in like dynamic products into things. We can do a lot more when it comes to deliverability that we've been able to kind of like open up and offer for our clients, things like that. At no extra, cost to our clients, which has been great. But yeah, the real like baseline of the offering hasn't changed a ton.
Obviously, a lot of people are going through the process of a sale, or maybe they're thinking about it. Like, what are the things I guess that you wish somebody had told you, and what are the things that you put into kind of like order that was really necessary that you didn't realize was?
I think it's like if it's your first real proper transaction, it's just a lot and can be a lot to just handle when it comes to, you don't really understand like the temperature fully of a buyer all the time. Like they're not going to really show you their hands until the deal's done fully. I think like the best buyers and the best partners show as much of their hand as they can along and throughout the process. Like for us, that was like, we had moments where like something maybe would come up and be like, oh shoot, is this deal going to fall through? Or because we wouldn't really get the full temperature check from the buyer. we'd only get like legal, talking to our broker, kind of weird, telephone game of what's going on. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like just trying to stay as like mentally stable as you can, knowing that there's going to be weird things that show up in either diligence or I don't know, maybe you're going back and forth and, your legal team doesn't think that there's going to be a ton of reps and warranties. And then in the last minute, you get a bunch of extra reps and warranties and it adds kind of a wrench into it. And it's kind of scary. And, you don't maybe know what reps and warranties even are. And you have to figure out what they are and what they mean. So I think a lot of it really comes down to it's new for everybody. Every first sale is new for everyone and it's just as scary for everybody. I think the biggest thing is just trying to like stay level headed and hire good attorneys. Like at the end of the day, like people that are going to look out for you and really like respect what you do and respect like instead of just, your money as well. Like we were fortunate to have a firm that I've been working with for a while help us with our deal and they weren't just like trying to get on the phone every 30 minutes to try and clock up like their rates and their hours and charges a bunch of money. So I think it's like a mix of like having someone that takes care of you, but also gives you just enough time and attention to make sure like the deal continues to go through and move quickly and smoothly. Outside of that, it's really trying to be, on the LOI side, like, ask for as much as you can in the LOI before you get to the deal. Like, because there can be a lot of changes that can happen in between those. LOIs can stay like letter of intents can stay very broad generally. Like we tried to push for like as much clarity in the LOI of like what's cash, what's equity, what's the payout period look like, all of these like really important details. How quickly do things get paid out? Like what is as far as insurance policies, like sometimes they'll make you take out an insurance policy to cover if like the company doesn't go as well. Try to get all of that clarity as much as we could in the LOI, which, some buyers don't love that because they kind of know that you know what you're doing. But that's just one thing that I would try to have your legal or whoever, if you're going through a deal, like push for as much clarity in the LOI so that way, like the purchase agreement kind of follow suit versus just being like a big gap between a bunch of gray area that can happen. And the gray area is the stuff that gets really scary.
That's what's tricky, right? Is like these are, and I know nothing about Verndale, so this isn't about them. It's more just like they've done this multiple times, so they've had the reps of going through this. Whereas like this is your first time going through it. That's the importance, I'm assuming, of the legal team who's been through it before. But what's tricky about that is like you have to really trust your legal team on top of that to know that they're doing the right thing by you, and of course they're going to try and do that. But it's just like it's the unknown unknowns that kind of keep you awake at night, wondering what does it all mean.
All right, friends, quick break. This episode is brought to you by Northbeam, the marketing attribution platform that we love over here at Scalability School. If you're a marketer, I mean, you probably agree, right? Incrementality testing is broken. These tests require tons of labor, spreadsheets, statistical reference, and the designing of a test is slow and error prone. How are you supposed to know what to test in the first place, right? There's a million factors that can make incrementality testing difficult. But the good news is Northbeam has completely changed the game and they fixed this. Only Northbeam Incrementality automates your incrementality test design and monitoring while protecting you from the major mistakes that plague incrementality testing. Northbeam builds tests using your own MTA data, launches them directly in ad platforms, and automatically monitors them throughout. If something threatens validity, you're alerted before it ruins the result. With Northbeam, you can launch tests in platform with a single click, saving you tons of time and reducing any chance for errors. And when the test concludes, your results flow straight into your MTA, meaning you can easily see results alongside the rest of your data. Incrementality was broken. Northbeam fixed it.
I was going to ask a follow up, and this is like looking forward a little bit to, I guess, an opinion from you. But like Verndale has a thesis, presumably, which they bought Fan Group, which has a very distinct offering from what Homestead offers, and there's probably a lot of benefit in doing that. Do you have an opinion on like what the future of agencies looks like with AI, without AI? Is it the consolidated approach? Like, is that going to become more of a necessity as AI pushes down costs and people expect more out of agencies? Or is a creative only shop, maybe that's not the best example, but like, is a media buying only shop going to survive? Is a creative only shop going to survive? Is it going to not change at all? I don't know. Do you have an opinion on where the agency market goes?
I mean, if it were up to me, I mean, I can't now legally can't start another agency for like 5 or 10 years. I can't remember, but it's going to be, it's a while. And I'm not sure if I ever want to do that again, candidly. But the big thing there is I just think you need to be the best at one thing. Like, I think trying to do a bunch of things okay is just never going to work well. and the focus is really important. I think what we were really good at in the beginning of Homestead and we continued to stay good at was the paid acquisition side. But when we got really good at the retention side, I mean, that, like I said, it became more than half of our business. I think it was like 60-70% of our business at towards the end there. That's where we started to like hit a rhythm. And there's a certain point of like time and market of just bringing on the right staff, finding the right people. Like, I mean, the agency business right now is completely based on people. Now it's becoming people plus AI. So I think that staying focused is more important than trying to do a little bit of everything. The future state of what it looks like, AI adoptability is going to be all of it. I think if people are unwilling to do that, they're going to very much struggle. I think that most media buying is going to be automated for a lot of brands the next like year. There's tools that are coming out now that are helping with this that are brands are already like trialing and testing. So if it's a media buying only agency, I'd be a little bit afraid about that. And so I think it needs to more come down to like the service offering should have strategy at the end of the day. Like it should have strategy and experience because as much as AI can like copy other brands, like you don't really know what the strategy was to develop the concept in the first place and the methodology to develop the concept in the first place instead of just like copying and pasting things. Until AI gets really good at the strategy part, I think agencies have like plenty of runway left here. And there's also just the personal, ability of like teaching, having someone manage things. There's a reason why a lot of people have like a financial advisor, buy an ETF for them and charge them, 1% fee on it, even though they could easily just go to Schwab and buy the ETF themselves and sit on it. It's because it's like something that's kind of scary. You're talking about big dollars in acquisition and like this is the biggest line item on your P&L. I think having an expert to like help you and coach you and guide you will always be a thing. So future of agencies, like I think what Verndale is doing is they're trying to bring in the best of each sector. So like retention, acquisition, web, CRO, and then it's like creative, performance creative. Like I think they're going to continue to probably plug other areas and try to have like a full, all around offering. We had a lot of clients. Like the interesting thing about Van is like, I think we had, I don't know, double digit clients, like over 10 clients that we both shared that were active clients of both Van and Homestead already. That just showed the promise of like how many of our, around 100 clients like could actually work with each other. Anyways, I think that was just super smart of Verndale to do. And so I would imagine their future acquisitions are going to be similar, just bolt-ons that is an offering that a brand is probably already paying a different agency to do. That would just make sense to bring into the fleet.
Like you said, is just kind of building together the different types of offerings that are AI enabled and how you're positioning that, what it looks like. And I think the future of it, and we see this in the founders community is so much around the innovation and the experimentation that the agency can have in terms of leaning into thinking about this. And it's not, nobody's going to be an expert, but if they can make, their processes 15% more effective utilizing AI, that's going to make them more attractive to a buyer. That's going to make that agency so much more effective because I think we're in this stage of a lot of experimentation and a lot of noise, but it's those that have truly positioned AI in terms of moving it forward, in terms of like moving the needle on businesses. You can tell right away. You can see it in their results. You can see it in the way they're thinking about stuff. And I would also say I've also seen the rise of a lot of creative agencies at this time or media buying agencies that do creative that have gone against the AI trend and are focusing on just absolutely making the best ads without AI and, trying to do long form, getting into consumer psychology. And I've seen the rise of that too. So I don't think it's like the be all and end all. And I think the just like anything, people want a quick answer, but in reality, the hard, deep work is what's going to actually move the needle in a lot of cases.
Yeah, you kind of like loosely hit on personal enjoyment with like, I don't know if I'd want to do this in 10 years when I finally can again. But maybe the Homestead of, 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. Is there any advice that you would give for them?
I mean, your business is the people. Your business is your employees. Your business is like, yes, as a sole founder or as a founder or partner or whatever, to like bring in business for the most part. Usually, like that's usually what the CEO's job of an agency is. Your business like dies or flies based on your team. So I think I have like a unique talent, which is like finding people that are just good and normal that are also smart. And I think that Homestead is a good example of that. Like if you look at even the first like 15 employees that we had and where all those people are now, a handful of them are still with us at Homestead, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But to see a lot of them go on to go work at 8 and mostly 9-figure brands has been super cool. I think the biggest like tip and feedback there is like when I started Homestead, I was hiring for vibes and smart. So it's like I didn't really care if you didn't have a background in media buying or Facebook ads. If you seemed really smart and I liked you a lot and you seemed like someone that could get on a call with a client and chop it up and shoot the shit and like also be able to then get into the work and go down all the analytics and be able to speak, into that. Those were the people that we hired. Those are like the Cam Bushes, the Connor Lanes, the Mike Lucases, like those are those people. They like hit that on the head. And so to see all of them go and do what they're doing now is like it's kind of obvious that they were going to go do amazing stuff after Homestead, but that's kind of how I framed who I was going to hire for the first like 10, 15 people. And I think that like culture is important for like a small agency. Like everyone should get along, everyone should enjoy what they do and like be able to like feel more like friends, I think, during the day. I mean, if you're spending 40 hours a week together and probably some late nights and some early mornings, like if you can enjoy who you work with, I think the work gets better because it feels less like work. So that's kind of what we did in the beginning. And then I think from there, like really what it comes down to is, the whenever you meet someone interesting or smart, like in there's a chance that maybe they could come work for you, like ask them if they would be interested to come work for you. Cause I think like we just did that consistently. And if I'd meet people at events or, like my CMO Max of Hollow met him at an event and I was like, I like him. He seems really smart. Do you want to come work for me? Like I just like put it out there within the first like 15 minutes of meeting him. And so I feel like doing that is important to like take shots at people that seem really cool and interesting. And maybe you can't, afford the salary that they want to come in at. Maybe it's a future thing that you end up, linking up later. But the success of an agency, it comes down to your people. It comes down to their ability to like learn quickly, and then also just be normal and nice and kind. So that's like what Homestead is today. That's what our brands are today. It's just like a bunch of, no, I've always had a rule of like no assholes. Like you could be the smartest and like the most witty and the most experienced, growth marketer. I've interviewed a lot of these people over the years. Like, I don't want you to come work for us if you're going to be a dick or if you're going to have an ego. Like, it just isn't going to work out. I mean, that's really it. At the end of the day, I think it's like it comes down to the people. So spending more time and effort on bringing the right people in, the work will get better. Everyone that's smart and nice can learn. Like, I don't think you need to have some crazy background in this to learn it now, especially like with all the resources, with like all the AI stuff and everything that's coming out that can just like teach you quicker. That's what I would put the attention towards. I mean, I think that's what allowed Homestead to get to where it is and get the exit that we had. And that's, I think, what's helps with the brands too.
Let's talk about the brands. For those of you that don't know, MarsMen raised $27.5 million Series A. Announced on March 30th of 26, co-founded by Benjamin, who is the CEO, and Zach, co-founder and CMO. 100 million revenue run rate under 18 months, profitable, bootstrapped. 400,000 customers served to date. And it's a men's wellness and supplement stack company. I guess the first question I had, which I never asked you, is why take money at all if you have all this, like if it's going so well?
Yeah. I mean, Mars is crazy. I mean, like I like, Ben and I had a decision that we had to make, which was like, are we going to be public about this business or not when we build it? And from the beginning, I kind of learned my lesson from Hollow of like, the more public you are, the more ripped your stuff is going to get. And the more you talk about it, the more, eyes you have on you. And for the most part, unless they're customers, it doesn't really benefit the brand a ton. It can help you get connections and learn things and, get opportunities. But I think that building in silence was like definitely the move here to do over the last kind of two-ish years. So, I mean, obviously it was fun to come out with the news, of course. Like this is like L Catterton is the GOAT. They're the best in CPG investing. They brought Nutrafol in, very similar comp to MarsMen, took it and sold it for, $1 billion to Unilever. They've done the deal with Thorne, which they bought, I believe they bought them around 600 million. They're going to market now for 4 billion. I mean, it's in the supplement consumer space, like they are world class at this. So candidly, like, why take the money? We wanted to have access to them. I mean, we didn't shop this deal around. We basically had a couple conversations, very loose conversations with a few private equity funds. we met Chris over at L Catterton and just like hit it off from day one and gave them first look. I mean, no other PE fund really got a look under the hood. It was just them. And we were growing similar to Homestead. We were growing quite rapidly during the diligence process of us putting together a deal, which helped us at the end of the day. And they were very fair. So I mean, I think getting access to a firm like Al Catterton to Ben and I was really, it was validation first and foremost that this is a great business and this is a great opportunity, and the space that we're in has a ton of potential because they have access to things that we don't have access to. They see information, they see deal flow, they see all these things, they see trends in spaces. So it was validation to say, yeah, this is a great company and a great opportunity. But it also gives Ben and I a larger chance for a bigger outcome. Ben and I have never sold a company for 9 figures, so for us to have a partner that knows how to shop those deals and knows how to sell companies for not just nine, but billions of dollars in some cases, just made a ton of sense to have that experience and that robust team like behind us for the future. I mean, outside of that, I mean, the company was going really well, and so it's like, when is the right time to go get money? It's usually when things are going so well that it's like we might as well put some more, fuel fuel behind it, and just like keep pushing even more. So, I think it came down to a few things. Like we have a really exciting, like I can't talk about it fully, but like a nationwide retail opportunity that we're going to go and be launching in the coming months here. We have an opportunity with a handful of other, very large retailers. That takes money to do and to do it right. So that's a big piece of this. The other part of it too is like there's things that we're excited to bring into like the men's wellness ecosystem, which is like bringing people that have a lot of knowledge, experience, things that can help others. May it be like a celebrity that has a ton of experience with this that maybe comes on with the brand, or if it's like more doctors and physicians that we could bring into the MarsMen ecosystem that can end up helping our customers and like just be healthier individuals. So all of these things to like make MarsMen feel from a customer and consumer perspective more valuable to them than just, hey, there's this T booster product I take on a daily basis. Those are all things that cost money and are going to be kind of like decently big bets that we're going to take. And so that's what a lot of this is coming down to too. So it's like a mixture of, we had the opportunity to partner with the best, which is a rare opportunity. We have, a big retail coming around the corner, and we have all these other like large bets that we want to go take. So despite the fact that we were scaling and we are still scaling at the rate that we are and we're profitable, it just made sense to just say, hey, let's not just try to have a good outcome. Let's go shoot for the moon on this one. So, or Mars, if you will.
I was going to say, can't shoot for the moon. I don't know how much we want to get into like the weeds of, or how much you even want to. There's building in public, and there's sharing very strategic things very specifically in public. So we don't have to go down the route of maybe cracking the tactics of what got you there. But what was the insight into like the white space in this, right? Because like I think the general perception of, I'll give you my perspective. The general perception of men's testosterone supporting products is, I always make this joke to you, but it's like, it's what you're at the gym at 4 a.m. It's what you see on the TV. And it's like, dude, what is this? I'm getting scammed. It's like, I'm calling an 800 number and people buy it because they wouldn't be spending money otherwise. But it's like, it's these really tacky, sketchy things. And so I'm just curious, like what was the, when you guys kick this off, like what was the white space that said like this is the opportunity?
Yeah, so all this is on Benjamin, not on me. Ben went through his own kind of like trial error success of trying to figure out how to improve his testosterone. We use his story a lot in our marketing efforts, and but at the end of the day, he was a super healthy 20-year-old man that was kind of dealing with fatigue and a handful of other things that were having an impact on his day to day, just well being and just mental headspace. And he went and got his testosterone tested, and it was like extremely low for the age and for how healthy he was. So he wanted to try to find a way to figure that out naturally. I would put Ben at like the 0.001% of like the forward thinking health and wellness individuals in like the US and maybe the world. So he was always willing to like try things, but he definitely lives on the like natural end of that, more than, going to go rip a bunch of peptides and do a bunch of crazy shit that there isn't a bunch of clinicals or anything like that behind. So he, over the course of like, I think it was like a year, before he even brought the idea, the product to me, he was basically like trial and error, trying a bunch of individual ingredients and kind of found a formula that he really liked. And so when he had the idea for MarsMen, he came up with the name and the brand kind of like thesis and the product itself. He was like, he presented it to me, was like, hey, I think there's a huge opportunity here. No one has really come knocking on Nugenix's door, which is kind of like the 800-pound gorilla in the space. And this is a better product at the end of the day. We're using, fully clinical doses. Everything is dosed appropriately. So from a potency standpoint, it's there. There's a few other ingredients that no one has really combined yet together. I've been taking this and it improved my testosterone by, X. I think that consumers would love this. And so, he brought all of that historic, like personal story to this, which I think is also like really important. It's not like it was just a product that we just kind of shot from the hip and threw in GPT and said, hey, make a better T booster. He put a lot of time, effort, and energy into formulating it. So kudos to him for doing a really good job and making a great product. But then, yeah, I mean, the fun part of being a marketer is like when you find a good product and you have the right, like it can be a good time. It can be a lot of fun and like the growth can happen very quickly. Yeah, I mean, we were running the business for a handful of months and doing okay. I mean, we were like just starting to crack into like six figures a month in revenue. And then I had a conversation with Jordan Menard, who is one of the co-founders of Instant Hydration. He's had an agency. He's one of the smartest marketers that I know. And Jordan's like, dude, go all in on subscription. And I'm like, we're trying it. We've got this is like two-ish, almost not quite 2 years ago. He's like, go all in on subscription, full send. Like, don't hold back. He's like, I promise you this will back out. Just go all in on subscription. And so there was a point in like October that this is like whatever, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, whatever it was, 16 months ago, that I told Ben, I'm like, hey, we're going to flip the site over to subscription only for the most part. Like we have the ability to like try once, but like on the foremost, like the front facing website, we're going to go all in on subscription and see what happens. And we spent into it. We were losing money on every acquisition, but I'm like, let's really see how this cohort backs out. And because the product is great, because we did a good job with like the retention experience, our month one rebill was like world class compared to any other brand, any other comp that I ever saw at Homestead. And it was like, oh shit, we're onto something here. And then month two rebill hit 30 days later and it was still quite strong and above any other brand that I saw. And I'm like, okay, we really have something special here where like our payback period is like, at one point it was like within 30 days, like 45 days. And I'm like, that is world class, never heard of it. And so, yeah, I mean, that was kind of like the catalyst to this, candidly, is like Jordan being like, send it, and us basically having to say, hey, we'll pushing all of our chips to the middle of the table and just see what happens. I mean, we put in a couple $100,000 into the company to kind of get it over that bridge there. Yeah, and then it just started to stack, and then it really is the game of how much can we spend on new customer acquisition and how much can we optimize our retention cohorts. And that brings us to today. That brings us to 9-figure run rate in less than 18 months.
I mean, I think so. I'll tell you things that I've said about you behind your back to other people. Okay, which is, I think, and actually, I've said this about Brad as well. Not just saying this so you don't feel left out, Brad, but there's something that your intuition has within marketing in terms of looking at the entire funnel that is very unique. That's understanding like how somebody's coming in, the way that they're thinking about this, and if it makes sense or doesn't make sense. And I've been on live calls with you and your team and other consultants, like walking through this, and you're like one of these people that brings up one point that nobody else sees, including myself, where you're like, oh, why is that way? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, and I'm married to one of these people, like Gracie's like this as well. Like she'll see something that like is off and I don't see it.
Mhm.
And like, and because I'm like a volume person in terms of the amount of stuff that I create, right? And like you're a quality person on the marketing side for sure. And I think if you go and look at the way that the entire funnel runs and that, the ads are, I mean, you can obviously look at the ad library, you'll see that this is sort of a master class in all of the things that you learned in doing Homestead. So what is it in terms of, and obviously you don't have to give the sauce too much, but like, what is it that you walked through and built with MarsMen in such a short period? Obviously it was a combination of subscription. It was understanding that this isn't, that it was understanding common issues, I think, that men have and that men see, especially in the United States, and that they feel. And it was leaning on that desire for more, right?
Mhm.
For more energy, for more like being able to endurance, like it's all, it's like these things that you feel. So how did you lean into that, and what were the things that you really made it so magical, do you think, from the marketing standpoint?
As much as I'm, confident, I don't love like trying to like share
Well,
what
your
what
Twitter
makes
your
me
Twitter
special,
account
but
would
like,
say
yeah, I
would
mean,
beg, be different, right? But
yeah,
yeah.
sure. I mean, that's my like internet persona, so that's fine. But the reality is like I think we're ahead of the game when it comes to a lot of things, and that comes from me. To your point, I think just like studying the market and just trying to like ask questions that people aren't willing to ask, which is, yeah, why does your buy box look that way? Why does your edit cart button look that way? Why does your carousel images, why are they set up in a certain way? These are all like the little details of things that I would just like obsess over. What does your Google shopping listings look like? Do you only have one? Like why not just all six? Why couldn't we just have all six show up and it's just our product? Just kind of like trying to take it and go beyond just like what's average, I think is like what got MarsMen to where it is, which is we push it. Like I think like it would blow most brands' minds how many landing pages we've fired up for this brand in the last like year. It's hundreds of pages and like unique templates, probably like 50 plus. So like the volume of ideas and concepts that we've tested is insane. Like the CRO test that, I mean, we run 2 to 3 depending on like the volume and capacity of traffic. Now that we're spending as much as we are, we can like pump them out. But like per week that we're running on the site to just like completely optimize every little detail of it. I think everyone has aspirations to do that. This was my project to like go full fucking send and be like, okay, I only have one product to sell. I can actually do all the work that I want to do because it's just one thing. The thing about Hollow that made Hollow like, I mean, Hollow is a great business, still growing. Like it's crazy to see what we've been able to do with that business. But like Hollow is like 7 businesses in one because we sell to 7 different types of people, 7 different products, even though they're all socks. This is literally like one product that we can have a bunch of different angles and a bunch of different uh, cohorts of that we can all push to one product. So I think that was something that like gave us a lot of momentum too, is that we could take all of this like ad concept to landing page concept, the congruency of those to then also to a PDP that all came into this one thing. And it was like, okay, just keep these people on this one product. We don't have to upsell them on anything. We can literally just keep them here. Um, I think that focus is what also allowed us to crush. And then, I mean, candidly, I would be an ass if I didn't say this, but like our team is incredible, like both on Hollow and Mars. But I mean, the team that we've been able to assemble with Mars is like really world class. Like we've been able to get incredible people like ahead of retention, ahead of partnerships, ahead of growth, ahead of paid, ahead of performance creative. Like some of these people were ex Hollow employees that are now on Mars, and most of them are new to the ecosystem. But when you have a brand that's growing at this rate, that's really exciting. People just want to come work for you, and so we just get the best people to come and have the opportunity to come work for us. Like our chief of staff, absolutely world class. It like blows my mind every day. Our head of finance, like we've just been able to cultivate a group of people that I think just crank and are super motivated to push. And then also like, I mean, I have to give like hats off also to Benjamin, my co-founder. I don't think I've ever worked with a founder that pushes as hard as he does. I think maybe like Chad from Groons is maybe like this. Clearly like had an incredible outcome and built an insane business. Benjamin like, pushes like no one else I've ever seen. To the point that like it almost like stresses me out, of someone who I always thought was like going to be the alpha in the room. He like pushes beyond that to a crazy degree. So I mean,
Taking so
all
much
that
Mars
said,
men.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, candidly, so yeah, obviously, but yeah. I mean, I think the summary of it is we didn't worry about what anyone else was doing besides just like figuring out what they could be maybe doing right, applying that to our own stuff, and then because we had the one product, it was just the focus thing that allowed us to just push. And then yeah, when you stack subscription revenue, MRR, and then you can continue every single month lowering your CPA, like or your NC ROAS, increasing your CPA. it just becomes kind of unfair. It just feels like
I mean,
cheating after a certain point.
I would say that, you touched on a couple things which are really important. I'd want to underscore for people that are still listening to this podcast, which is now getting quite long, actually, 47 minutes in. So thank you for still being here. One of tens of our listeners. One is the attention to detail that you have is actually really worth noting. And the other one is I've witnessed you being like, we see a dip in revenue and like you're not accepting it. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like, yeah, you know what, we'll see what next week brings. Like I hear that a lot from other people. Not gonna happen. You're like, we're gonna spool up this, we're gonna fix this, we're gonna try this. And like you have the team. And the final part is because of the team, you invested in this team really before you had the money to do so in this brand. Like you had Homestead-ish, but like you also had people that you were basically not paying yourself. You and Ben, like you guys were like, we're just gonna absolutely build world class and like bet on this, and we think this is a good bet. And it was because you brought in absolutely incredible people. Like I was just telling a story about another agency owner who now everybody knows who this agency owner is. And I said, like, try to figure out what this person did early on. And what happened was they hired a marketing team for the agency of 5 people to put out absurd amounts of content so everyone knew about this person. And this person was losing 60 grand a month for 9 months. But like that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what made it successful. So I think that's a really important thing to like kind of have in your head, because like the financial outcomes that you've seen here are essentially like great but this has been years in the making for these things where you haven't paid yourself, you guys haven't, you haven't taken a lot of money. It's all been poured back into the people. So I think that's important to point out, because I think there is a lot of dollar signs in people's eyes when they see stuff like this, but the real story is there's more to the tactical grind every day of and investing in the right people, which I think is a huge thread that runs through this.
Yeah, maybe people would not be surprised at this or be surprised, but like Ben and I look at every email that goes out. We look at every ad that goes out. We look at every landing page that goes out, every CRO test that goes out. So like between Ben or myself, we're looking at all of those things and giving it one final touch before it goes, just to try and push it a little bit more. I think that's like a piece of it that also, I think, puts the right amount of pressure on the team, but also like creates, an outsized outcome. The only other piece that I will say is there is a level of risk tolerance that like we took in this business in those early days that a lot of people just aren't willing to do. And we did it, and we sent it. And like, that was, I wouldn't say quite a coin flip, but it was like, maybe a 60-40 instead of a 50-50 flip. There was a lot of that in the very beginning. Like the advice from Jordan was like very risk forward. So I think a lot of brands also sometimes get stuck in the like, it's going okay and good, but it's not great. And that what gets it to great is that risk tolerance of being to say like, hey, if we change this one thing up in the business, that's going to have a big ripple effect. But if that ripple effect could be great or bad, like, am I willing to take that bet? And I think most people don't. And the people that see outsized outcomes usually are the ones that are taking that risk.
Yeah. I wrote a bit ago, I was writing down in my notebook. And so I'm just going to read what it says. And I think you guys just hit on all this. So the headline is glaze, because we're closing out the glazing section here. But I wrote down some things that stood out to me before you guys each individually went through this. So this was written down ahead of time. Ironically, what you just said, I wrote down big balls. So I think Zach has gigantic nuts. The other thing I wrote down is that the team speed. Like I've been in Slack channels with people across the different brands, and it's like, I love the people that we work with, like on client side, but like nobody moves as fast as your team. Like, hey, when you're going to test this new offer, and it's like, okay, the buy box is done. Like 3 hours later, it's like, what do you mean the buy box is done? Like, I thought this was a next week project. Like, and it would be a next week project, if not a next month project for a lot of people. And it's just like that, the speed of like, well, why can't we just do it right now? Especially if it's going to change the economics of this in a substantial way. Like that's always, I was telling my business partner, Jordan, we were having this conversation, like last week. It's just like the most useful or like the most beneficial things that I've done in my life is like get around people who break your frame on like what's possible. And like, I think the team, you and your team, like I think set the standard on speed. So I just wanted to add, again, this section of my notebook is called glaze. So I'm just close that out. And then like the other thing I'll say that I think you also mentioned is like, you seem to like put yourself around people who are either where you want to go or are in a similar spot. You just like talk to them relentlessly. and it's like, hey, I just got off this call with so and so. Like that happens several times a week, and that's like intentional. And like obviously people want to do the same with you, like they want to talk to you, and I think that's really cool. What I wanted to bring it back to, I guess like my final thing, and we can make this as quick as you want, but I'm not going to let you go on the personal enjoyment piece of this. So I was just curious, like you've gone through the agency life, you've gone through the brand life, and you made the point about, I don't know if I want to do this in 10 years from now. Maybe riff on that for a little bit. It's like, where's your head at with it? And like,
the intention of Homestead, for what it's worth, was always to start brands. So if you really go back and look at my like proper work history, I started an e-commerce brand when I was 19 in college. And that's what got me my first job at a marketing agency that allowed me to drop out of college. That then got me a job at another marketing agency that then turned into Homestead. So I've been a brand person that went agency for like 10 years before I got to be the brand person that I've always wanted to be, which I'm not like there. I'm not who I always wanted to be yet. Like I have big goals and big aspirations, but like there's definitely been the intention to go build brands. And so when I started Homestead, I mean, I told the OG team, the first 10 employees will tell you that my intention was, we're going to build this agency, then we're going to go start our own thing. So I think that's just like the route. I love helping other people grow their businesses. Like I get a lot of enjoyment out of I don't do one-on-one consulting personally just because I'm so busy, but I just like tell people in DMs, like, just ask me your questions and I'll try to answer them. Or just like text me and I'll try to answer them. But I enjoy that the most about the service side, is like when you can help someone else and help them just like see that pop, is like honestly like as much fun as doing it for yourself. But it can be a grind. Like when you really want to build a big business, which I always have aspirations to do, is like build big shit, is to do that in an agency is just really hard. It's, hundreds of people, hundreds of clients, hundreds of people because of the hundreds of clients. Like I really enjoy working like personally with a smaller group of people. So if we can do, big numbers, but do it with a brand, like that's kind of what feels like right now. So that's kind of where my head's at with it.
I think that's Brad, you brought up a good point, which is the asking people. I think this is a thread that runs through really successful people that I've seen in my life too, which is they're always constantly curious and of asking other people, how's that? What are you doing with that? How are you thinking about that? Right. And I tell a story often about a guy that I knew many years back who was a world-class expert in innovation. And he had a world-class like innovation consultancy. And he would go and speak at IBM and all these, like, I know he was speaking at Anthropic last month. I just saw, and this is what he's done. It works on innovation with people. And I'm like, how do you stay on top of this? He's like, oh, I just talk to like 5 people a month who work in innovation. And then I ask them what they're innovating on. That's, nothing other than that. Like, and so I think that kind of curiosity is really interesting, because I think there's an ego side of it that comes in and is like, well, I know this is what it is, but actually to be truly successful to unlock it, you have to be talking to people all the time and be constantly curious and testing and trying and seeing what other people say. You hear how much in Zach, your story, how much other people are woven into that. And I think that's really valuable just for people to hear.
I'll just close the loop on that. As like the final piece is, yeah, I mean, I think you need to, if you want to go do something, or you're like, I want to get here next, you can't be talking to the people that where you're at. You have to go talk to the next step of people. And I think that it can be like scary and stuff like that. I have like a weird no filter where I just like will hit somebody up if I like get, I maybe just ask a friend for like a contact to someone else. Have like a text group chat with, Chad from Groons is in that. Hudson from Comfort's in that. Like, these are people that, Hudson's going to do $1 billion in revenue. Chad just sold his company for $1 billion. Like, that's at a stage that I can't even imagine. But like, those are the people I want to be like, am I thinking about this wrong? Am I thinking about this right? Like, I asked a question about how I'm even spending my day to day to that group. And, thankfully, someone like Chad was sweet enough and kind enough to like send me a 2-minute long voice note that was like really helpful. But like, that's the type of thing. I think you need to continue to interact with people that are like outside of the scope that maybe is like a little scary to reach out to, or you look up to. Like, just reach out to them. There's normal people for the most part. So
thank you to those of you that are still listening. The longest podcast we've ever had. So pretty exciting, but a lot of big news, obviously. And the good news is we didn't sell the podcast yet. So the podcast keeps going, but if anybody wants to buy us, We are open to
Anthropic is
to 9-figure offers.
TBPN just went to OpenAI, so Anthropic,
anything's
if you're
possible.
listening, you are certainly. We'll take
Of
2
course.
billion.
Of course, yeah. But Zach, congrats on the success, and glad to have an episode to talk through it with you. And as
Thanks, guys.
always, if you enjoyed this, please rate us on the podcast app of your choice. We're happy to be here for you, providing tactical insights on everything. And if you have questions or comments, feel free to email Andrew at Foxwell Digital, and we'll get back to you. But until next time, keep it scaling.
This episode is brought to you by Homestead's email and SMS service. Honestly, we've done an episode with Jacob from Homestead. He's the man. And he's got to be probably one of the smartest email and retention operators
Easily.
like on the agency side, hands
Easily.
down. I look forward to seeing like the tweets that he puts out basically every single month with like a recap of the designs. And as amazing as the designs themselves are, it's the actual like tactical behind the scenes work where he just like knows what he's doing. And the team at Homestead like really know what they're doing on email and SMS. Probably, if not the number one, very close to competing for number one retention agency in the DTC space. So just killing it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If you are looking at your emails and you're like, these are terrible, and you can optimize the flows, and you can do SMS better, you got to look at the Homestead team. So check them out, reach out, and they can definitely help make your entire email and retention and SMS program so much better. And I'm not just saying that. We've all seen the work. I actually had a member who sat down with Jacob at the founder meetup that we had, and he came over to me and said, I just talked to him for 10 minutes, and literally he's revolutionized my entire email department. So agencies are modeling themselves off of what Jacob is giving them for advice. So anyway, onwards to hopefully working with them.